And we're back again. Hello. Second time lucky, shall we? Give it a go. See what happens. Oh, Lordy. I don't know how people cope with live television, do you? I just wonder they don't tear their hair out. But hopefully people will pop on in a minute. So, yeah. Hello again, everybody. We'll see how we go, shall we? Let's see if I can add you in now. Why won't it let anybody join? Oh, my God. It's driving me insane. Anyway. Here we go for your request. Hopefully, that's done it. Hopefully. We can but hope, eh? It's a horrible night here tonight, my darling. There she is. Hello. Finally. Oh, my God.
Sorry, there's a lot on my face. I'm having to hold my phone up.
Oh, bless you. I'm sorry it's a bit of a problem because the weather is really crap here tonight. It's really stormy. So if you lose me, I will come back, all right?
Oh, brilliant. Okay, sorry, it might be, we've been having some signal issues in the office as well, to be fair, so it might be me.
So first of all, happy publishing day.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's it gone today?
Really well. It's been amazing. It's funny actually because it's I've been really busy at work.
Yeah, me
So
too.
I've been sort of like nipping between meetings, but always conscious that actually there's stuff going on, you know, like on social and book-wise that I've not really sort of attended to as much as I would normally.
Yeah, that's the problem. I saw all these posts and I'm like, I haven't even said congratulations. And I only went back to work. You know, I've been off for 6 months because I lost my husband in March. So I've had 6 months off. So I've gone back and there's just nobody's done any of my work. It's just like,
oh God, I hate that. Yeah, when you check your inbox and there's thousands and thousands. Yeah.
I had 5,000 emails when I logged on 4 weeks ago.
God.
And after I banged myself against the wall a couple of times, I got over myself. I got on with it. But anyway, so everybody, this is TC Parker, or Nat.
Hi, everyone.
And she is an indie author. And today is the release of her 12th novel.
It is.
Wow.
Sure not have to count them, but yeah.
Consequential, which is the third in the Hummingbird Murder Mystery series, which we're going to talk about because I love it.
Excellent.
I only met Nat in August. It's the first time I'd ever heard of you, actually. And I love indie horror, so I don't know, I've missed you. But the first time I met you and Shauna was at the Birmingham Con.
Oh, it was brilliant. And actually, just while we're here, I just want to say, Shauna and I were talking about it just before I came on, but it's been so great actually being involved, you know, with the indie horror chapter and like just everything that you've done and Trisha's done and Rachel's done. It's been bloody amazing. Just actually being able to connect with the community because so much of it's in the States. You know, so much of the horror world is, especially indie horror. It's like, and don't get me wrong, everybody's lovely, but it's bloody far away.
It is far. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it has started, the indie horror chapter actually is as a conversation with me and Phil in a bookshop in Tiverton saying, wouldn't it be nice if we had a book convention in the UK?
Yeah.
And then Trish just ran with it, and she's like a force of bloody nature. And so because then I was, you know, obviously everything happened with my husband, so I had to kind of take a step back really. So her, and I mean, and she's the one who's really driven this incredibly. So although I was, you know, kind of part of it to begin with, it was she's the one who does all the work, to be fair.
But it's everybody that's been involved, it's been bloody amazing. Like, we're so excited for Canterbury, but like all of it, the fact that everybody's come together and everybody's really excited, everybody's enthusiastic, it's been absolutely incredible. And I think also for us, because obviously we just set up a small press this year, and I think to get the impetus behind it, you know, to know that we've got actually a horror community as well that's local to us rather than like far away.
Everybody was so lovely. It was, you know, a lot of these people, a lot of them I've ARC read or beta read for, so I'd never met them before, and it was like everybody it was just so comfortable.
Yeah, it was
like
lovely.
Everybody.
It was absolutely lovely.
Hello, Ross. Yeah, with this indie horror chapter, if you look it up on Facebook, we've got a group. Join that.
Oh, Ross, sorry, just just to say, like, big shout out to Ross. So Ross and I go back a long, long way. He and I and our friend Kev Harrison, actually, we used to have a podcast.
Kev, I travelled with Kev.
Yeah, well, Kev, you know, Kev's like the best Kev in the world. But, he's like a beautiful little hedgehog of a man.
Oh.
But yeah, Ross also did all the interior artwork and the cover originally before I had to relaunch it for Salvation Spring. So he's a big shout out to Ross, awesome author, but also really, really talented artist. So.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Ross, the Indie Horror chapter is over on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. There will be something on Instagram at some point when we get round to it, and on TikTok, because I tend to be the one who sticks it everywhere, all over, apart from Facebook. A beautiful hedgehog of a man. It's a great. She has a way with words, does she not? But yeah, if you're looking for Indie Horror chapter and ask to join, I'm an admin on that. The next one is in Canterbury, March, and then there'll probably be one, hopefully, down near me in the southwest in August. So I can't get to Canterbury, it's too far for me, and I'm disabled, but I'm very envious because there's some fantastic authors. Oh my God, it's going to be wonderful. Everybody should go. But anyway, apart from all that, we're going to do just some getting to know you questions. All right, I'm very, very informal. I will witter on, so please, you know, rein me in.
Also, just to say, Shauna might need to run at one point just to give me my phone charger, because I realised that because I was expected to log in on the computer, so I'm dangerously low on battery. So if you just see the top of her head in the background, that's why.
That's what she's there for, isn't it? Bless her heart. So tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and when you started writing.
Oh, wow, okay. So I'm from Leicester. I live in Leicester now. I lived in London for a good few years, but moved back just before we had my first child. Yeah. So yeah, live in Leicester, work in London, sort of work all over the place. But I only really started writing kind of in my mid-30s. So wow. It's not even really been 10 years yet, actually. I think I was about 36 when I started Saltblood. And then I put that down for a bit. And then during COVID, picked it back up, banged out the crime trilogy. And then kind of got the bug, I suppose, and then just went through a phase of just writing. But it's not really been very long at all. I'm envious of people, you know, when they talk about, you know, writing since they were a kid or always needing to. Whereas I think I always told myself for a long time that I wasn't a creative person. So like in my job, I'm kind of a researcher and an analyst. So I was like, you know, I'm a researcher, I'm an analyst. I like kind of evidence-based stuff and all the rest of it. Yeah, and it's great. I'm an accountant. Oh yeah, it's real. But yeah, it's, you know, that idea that like evidence, you know, verifiable stuff. Whereas I was always a bit wary of calling myself a creative, especially because sometimes I work with creatives and God knows you don't want to tread on their toes. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, then it turned out I just really loved it. And, you know, like I couldn't stop. And now I'm still doing it.
12 novels in 10 years is pretty impressive, darling.
Well, 13. I've just 13's in edit now.
You know what I mean, though? I think you were quite surprised when she added them up, weren't you? How many you'd done?
Yeah, I
you probably hadn't kept count, really, because you're just kind of, you know, in the midst of it.
Yeah, well, especially, I mean, there's one that's out of print at the minute. There's a sort of co-write that I did with Edward Lawn about 3 years ago. And I always kind of forget that exists just because it's gone out of print. And then there's a rom-com as well that's sort of released on a whim that I always forget because obviously it's not part of the nefarious bat stuff. Sorry, I'm just plugging myself in.
Oh, bless you. Look, great view of the ceiling there. Brilliant.
I was going to say, yes. Oh, sorry, Shauna's come with some kind of device. Wait.
Oh, well, she'll sort you out.
Hang on. Hello. Sorry, you see the top of my head again. Oh, she's plugging me in. Sorry. Bear with me, everybody.
That's all right. No worries, my darlings.
Hi, guys. Sorry.
Hi, she's there in the background.
Hi, Shauna.
Hey, how are you, Sharon?
Oh, all right. Thank you, my love.
There we go. The lovely view of me parting there.
What happens when you go live, you know? You just got to go with the flow, you know?
It's more nerve-wracking than Teams, I tell you.
Well, yeah, it's kind of, yeah. And you just have to think, you know, it's just you and me having a chat. That's how I always think about it. I'm Melina. My friend Melina's on. That's how I think about it. So we should talk about Nefarious Bat Press.
Yes.
Which is
brilliant.
Something that you and Shauna, I presume, started this year?
Just this year. So not even, I think we've been going about 4 months now.
Yeah.
But I'm quite pleased we got incorporated a couple of months ago, which I'm quite excited about. So we're all official. And we've got our first sub open at the moment, first sub call. So we're working through novella submissions at the minute. They're all bloody brilliant. So I'm very excited about
nearly submitted myself and then talked myself out of it.
No, oh my, sorry, if you could see Shauna's face right now, her mouth just dropped. I put submit. Seriously, like
I just haven't got time to do it. I've written since I was little. I mainly write poetry, and but I've actually I've started writing short stories. So, but I'm not ready yet. But maybe in the future I will be.
Well, fingers crossed. All being well with this one, we should have another call open next year. So yes,
it is a brilliant. Melina says what a brilliant name for a press, and it is a fantastic name. How did you come up with it? I mean, obviously you're a horror writer mainly, aren't you? So nefarious is a great word.
I mean, it was, I can't remember, to be honest. It was something Halloweenish, but you can probably see there's a lot of like
bats
memorabilia knocking around the office.
If I had a press, it should have ghosts in it. I'm obsessed with ghosts. They're everywhere.
We've actually got, I don't know if you can see, hang on, let me just turn around. So a lot of Shauna's art is kind of ghost or sort of ghostish.
Yeah,
I actually don't know if you can see that.
I'm obsessed.
There you go. Yeah, there's a little boo.
Yeah. I've got boo everywhere. There's ghosts everywhere. I love a good ghost cushions. It's an obsession, really. So that's really good. So your submissions are out. When are you going to plan on doing an anthology or collection?
No, it's a novella. So sort of novella. It's novella length. So we're looking at between sort of 20 and 40, I guess, kind of 20 and 40,000 words.
Wow.
But we're in the first instance. So for this call, we're just looking for women and non-binary people. Yeah. But then the next call, I think, is going to be open to all genders. So in the next call, we're already sort of tossing around some ideas for themes.
Yeah.
And then Shauna wants to do like small town horror as the theme for the next one.
Oh, I love small town horror though.
I know, same, hard same.
So anyway, we're going to talk about Consequential.
Yes. Brilliant.
Now, as I say, I only heard about your stuff when I met you in August, and at the time I bought Hummingbird and In Coventry, right? Amazing. And I read Hummingbird, and it blew my mind. It's one of my top reads of this year. It is. I can't explain it. I couldn't. It's like some kind of weird fever dream. It's just incredible. I absolutely loved it. I loved all the characters. I loved the fact that it started off in a very kind of innocent. It's almost it's kind of like Miss Marple on acid.
Yeah. Oh my god. Well, the funny thing is, so the first story in it, so it's 5, just for everybody else, it's 5 novelettes,
yeah,
5 kind of novelettes. The first novelette wasn't supposed to really be supernatural. Yeah. It actually started life as just kind of body horror. And I wrote it for Steph Ellis. Yes. So she and Alison so they put out I don't know whether they still run it, but they had a small press, a sort of feminist small press, and they put out a Daughters of Darkness series. Yeah. So the second Daughters of Darkness, it was basically the sort of a collection of novellas and novelettes from me, Lynn Love, Kath McCarthy, and Bev Lee. And there wasn't a theme per se, but it was very much kind of British female horror writers. Yeah. And especially, I mean, I think because also none of us, I hope I'm not offending anyone by saying it, we're not young horror writers, you know what I mean? We're all kind of older women.
I'm verging towards elderly, so you're all quite young to me.
I apparently not young enough that I can operate a phone. But so it started. I'm just going to hold it. I think it's a bloody nightmare trying to put it up on something. Sorry, Shauna's come back in. It's a comedy of errors, this. So I started writing The Body Tree, which is the first novelette in Hummingbird, and for the Daughters of Darkness anthology.
Oh, I blinking love that. That imagery, it lives rent-free in my head, that.
Well, I love that. Was actually, funny enough, the whole thing started, and I don't know if Ross will remember this, but this actually came up, funny enough, when we're, around the time we were running the podcast. The house that was up the road from my kids' school, so it's just a primary school, and it's a very sort of a new estate, but very kind of anodyne new estate. Yeah. There's a house around the corner from it, and it had the most terrifying, like they'd gone all out for Halloween, but it wasn't like your typical Halloween. It was like sort of a Hellraiser Cenobite theme. And they're like dismembered bodies and like random limbs and like hooded figures hanging.
To me.
Well, that was brilliant, but they'd obviously put a lot of work into it. It was like, bloody hell, this is around the corner from a primary school. And then it just sort of went from there. And that's kind of how the body tree thing happened. And then it sort of snowballed.
Is this really a wonderful, not only a social commentary, there's a social commentary running through it, very much so, isn't there? But it's a fantastic horror. And it introduces us, which is why I mentioned it, introduces us to a god demon called Sunny, who I love to death. I just love her so much. Who's, you know, it's a very, very, I don't want to spoil anything, right? So Hummingbird itself is, Sunny's one of the people who's left at the end, right? I don't want to tell you what happens because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. It's fantastic. Read it. It's brilliant. It's on KU as far as I know in it.
Yeah,
now.
it is.
It's worth it. The cover alone is stunning. Oh my God, the cover alone's worth buying the book for.
Oh, shout out Keelan Patrick Burke, bloody amazing work on it.
We love Keelan. I mean, do you know, we've had this conversation, haven't we, a lot on social media at the moment about AI, and it is lovely to see an actual proper artist rendition cover because it's flooded with AI at the moment.
Oh, completely. And funny enough, actually, just something worth clarifying, because I had a couple of people emailing me to ask if it was AI. I think because it was so well, you know, kind of almost
beautiful.
But no, I can confirm. So Keelan and I actually talked through the process of it. It's been so beautifully layered. You know, like the skull and the antlers.
He's so talented at that kind of stuff. And actually, the second I saw it, I thought it was a Keelan. I thought it was one of Keelan's. It's just his trademark, really, that kind of layering of imagery over the top.
And the font as well.
Something really
chunky typeface. I love it.
Yeah, brilliant. But so at the end of that, Sunny, who is a ancient god demon who is earthbound, and she cannot hurt humans, basically, can she?
Despite wanting to.
But she wants to desperately because they all do already. And so the second book, which is in Coventry, she decides she's going to become a detective, like Jessica Fletcher with horns.
Yeah,
and she decides that's what she's going to do. So the second book is called In Coventry. The third one, which comes out today, Consequential, which again, I think she just does it because she's bored, don't you?
Oh yeah, all of it.
I think she just.
I mean, it's just like, I think the beauty of writing a character like Sunny is that when I say she's got no moral compass, I don't mean that she's immoral particularly. It's just there's no compass anywhere.
No.
So it's very much kind of a character that's led by like what's interesting, and sort of the combination of having this sort of vast bank of knowledge because she just lived for thousands of years, coupled with the fact that everything seems really peculiar all the time.
And she's wonderful in her natural form. She's wonderful, but she can also transmogrify into other creatures, and that part of it I love. I mean, in this one, she turns into a spider in this one, which I love to death. I was like, "Can you?" And she was like, "Oh, can you, Matt?" And she was so annoyed that she'd have to defile herself to get something so small. Do you know what I mean? It's just this wonderful.
That's the beauty, I think, of writing shapeshifters as well. You're just like, what form would suit this scenario?
Yeah, exactly. So in this one, in the third one, Consequential, which is what we're celebrating tonight, Jonas, who is also from Hummingbird World, the beginning, who is a fledgling necromancer. Maybe.
Yeah, just sort of getting to grips with it a bit.
He doesn't really like the idea of it, and he doesn't really want to do it. But his boyfriend, who's Dan's ex-boyfriend, Sean, has gone missing. And that's what pulls Sunny in, because they're trying to find... It is Sean, isn't it? Yeah, it is Sean, yeah. I was just doubting myself for a second then. I've only just read it. So that's what she gets pulled into. And she gets pulled into this world where it's really conspiracy-led, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the deaths in this are juicy. I defy anyone not to read the first chapter and be like, oh my Lord, where's this going to go now?
Actually, just as a bit of insight, I don't think this is a spoiler, but a lot of the death scenes in it, well, certainly the first few, they were very much inspired by, I don't know if anyone's watched Cube.
Yeah.
you know that kind of they're all trapped in a cube and they try and escape the cube, and every time the cube moves, one of them gets knocked off in a really nasty way. So like they'll get cut with cheese wire, or they'll get like acid spray all over them. And I remember when I first sat down to start writing the initial death scenes, I was like, I want it to be something like that. You know, that kind of idea of like,
yeah. It reminded me of, was it, I don't know, it's Final Destination 4 or 5, when the and I love it. It's one of my favourite deaths from that season, from that series. It's the bloke who's the mechanic, and he gets pushed against the wire and goes through it, and he gets sectioned off. You know what I mean?
That's funny enough. One of the deaths in Cube, it's almost exactly that. There's like one of the cubes sort of spins, and then it just you just end up with little human cubes.
And it's so anyway, she goes to investigate this basically, and there is it turns out Sean's got a very famous boyfriend. This all a bit hush hush, yeah, so that's what she does. And along the way in Coventry, there was a wonderful cameo from another demonic god called Bunny, who is, she reminds, I've got a friend, I'm a witch, you know, that's who I am, right? I've got a friend who lives in Yorkshire, and she reminds me of Bunny. She's fanatical about the Amdram. Yeah. She comes back into it in Consequential. There's also a new one called Elandra, who's a vengeance demon, I guess. Yeah. And a necromancer. So, and I want you to know, I always try and match my earrings to the book, but I haven't got any with pigs in. I was trying to find pig earrings. I thought I've got some piglet earrings somewhere, but I couldn't find them. So you've got knives with screen, but anyway, the giant pig, which is on the front cover.
Oh, I love that pig. Just a word about that pig, right? One of the best things about writing. So normally I'm a massive plotter. I mean, like Russell confirmed this. Like normally I will sit down, and Andy actually is my editor, I think, is in the chat as well. I will plot everything assiduously to within an inch of its life before I even start writing. I cannot pants to save my life.
That's but with interesting. That one, just move yourself.
Don't worry, listen. As long as I can still see your face, you're doing better than I am. But I was in the shower one day, and I just had essentially the first chapter, not the first Grady chapter, but the first Sunny chapter with the pig and Elandra. I was in the shower, and the whole scene just kind of played out in my head. And I was like, I didn't even want to write another Sunny book at that point. I had it pegged on for next year. But I was like, I've got to write this scene.
Yes.
Got to write it. But that pig is actually, it's a real folklore. I mean, obviously it's not quite as written, but there's, in the Forest of Dean, there's a giant mythical pig called the Beast of Dean. And yeah, essentially that's what the pig is based on.
And he's so sweet. He's like a dog, really.
Yeah, like a giant pig dog.
You know what I mean? It's the idea, it's that kind of dichotomy, isn't it, of the fact that, you know, something that's a legend that's supposed to be horrific and awful and kill you, and then he's on his back wanting his belly tickled.
Yeah, it's like a bit of a cuddle.
You know, I love that.
You know, happily eat doing it till the cows come up.
I love that, and I really, and you know, and I know that Sunny agrees to look after him for a brief time, doesn't she? You don't see that in the book, but in my head, I can just imagine what happened. You know what I mean?
I can confirm that the pig is back in the next one.
The pig is back. The characters are fabulous, and what I really enjoy is the supernatural. It is very much, if I was going to pitch it, it would be like Midsummer Murders, Miss Marple, but with a lot of death, and a supernatural element, which you don't get in murder mysteries usually. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, or
you've got this.
It's very like, it's the sort of kills off scene, or they tend not to be very gory. It's all quite.
Yeah.
I like the coziness, like with but actually, funnily enough, I'm a big, I don't know if you can see on the shelf, but I'm a massive Terry Pratchett fan.
Me too.
Like I'm
Me too.
Fiend. And a lot of the Sunny books, a bit of Hummingbird, but definitely like Commentary and Consequential, they're very much kind of me trying to have a go at Discworld, and especially like the Witches Discworld.
And it does have that feel to it. It has that very much Pratchett game and feel to it, where you've got this kind of very kind of police procedural kind of going along, where things are happening and you've got to investigate and you've got to interview people, and then all this weird supernatural shit.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of and that's exactly what both Pratchett and Gaiman do.
Yeah, very.
You know, they twist the fantasy the fantasy genre into something. They subvert it, and that's what you've done in these books. They're a subversion of a murder mystery, because the murder mystery is actually quite good fun, but it's actually the other stuff that makes it interesting, right?
Definitely. Well, it's funny enough, the plot for it, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but the main murder mystery plot that he ends up investigating, I initially, before the scene with the pig and Alandra when I was in the shower, I initially had that mapped out in my head as like a straight murder mystery, because I thought, I'll just write it as kind of crime, because I'm quite political. Like I get quite angry especially about rich people. I'm not going to lie, rich people are for the most part complete bastards.
It's because I've never been rich. I think if I was rich, I might like them.
I don't know though. That just seems. I'm not sure I've ever come across one where I thought you are a lovely person I'd like round for dinner. Do you know what I mean?
No. It's true. It changes people, sadly.
But I think one of the things that I absolutely love about writing, I mean, writing more generally, is that there is a bit of an opportunity to get rich people having a bit of a comeuppance. Do you know what I mean? There's that kind of sense of sort of a justice that you wouldn't necessarily see play out elsewhere in the world. You can see it play out in fiction. And I think with Pratchett as well, and especially with like the Witches books and the City Watch books, there's a really strong moral centre to them. There's a sense actually that rich people are generally absolute bastards, and when they act like absolute bastards, there needs to be some comeuppance. You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree, and I think that's very true. I think that with Pratchett, with Sunny actually, although we say there isn't a moral compass because she's a demon and a god, and so she works differently from us. There is actually a real moral compass running through these books, I think.
Well, I think even further, there's definitely a way that you do things and a way that you don't. And even if it's not recognisably kind of moral in the way that it might be sort of in human terms, it's still very much like, oh, actually what you've just done is appalling. Even if it's not like it's unethical, I'm appalled by it.
Yeah, and I think she kind of enjoys that as well. She kind of enjoys the fact that it's like Jonas. It'd be kind of nothing to her in a way, because he's just a human who happens to have a bit of supernatural, right? Yeah. But she actually comes across as quite motherly to him, really, and actually she really cares, and she's got his back. She doesn't admit it, but she has.
Oh, for sure. And I think definitely one of the things that's been lovely, sort of watching it progress, like from Hummingbird on, is like, there's this idea in Hummingbird that you kind of just see her at a single point.
Yeah.
And actually there's been like 50, 60 odd years of backstory of her necessarily kind of having to engage with humans. And actually that leaves a bit of a trace. And I think after what happened in Hummingbird, again, without there being sort of spoilers, it's left this kind of void. Yeah. And I think you've got him to sort of fill it. So there is definitely a kind of parent sort of relationship there.
And what I love about it is, one of my favourite things about it is that she just casually mentions these major historical events, just casually. I was just, I don't know if this one's in there, but I was having lunch with Caligula. You know what I mean? It's just like she just casually mentions them. Like, I love, as a history fanatic, I love that.
I'll say, I love one of the best parts about writing, and sort of Hummingbird, obviously with Hummingbird, a lot of it was to do with like the witch trials, and especially kind of sort of Scottish and Irish kind of witch trials. But as the series progresses, there's been more and more opportunity to go into, because I'm a massive ancient history buff. I fucking love it. Like
Me too.
Like Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, all of that stuff is like. And so the beauty of a character like Sunny is like you can essentially go back to the beginning of recorded history and any event that's interesting, there's no reason she shouldn't have been there. Do you know what I mean?
It's the way she just casually drops. I mean, one of my degrees is in Egyptology, so fascinates me. But it's just the way she casually just drops it in. That's what I find most entertaining. I just think, oh bless her, because she wouldn't you? Well, it's quite normal for her. That's normal life.
Oh, Sharon, you've just gone a bit. Oh, you can. I think your thing's just.
I've gone a lot, to be honest with you, love, but I'll try and keep up. It's the way she casually drops it in, because of course it's her life, and it's like us saying, oh, the last time I was here there was a bridge.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of thing, but to her it's like and the way that all of them actually, Bunny does it too, and Alandra, don't they, where they use the old names for the places. I love that. That really makes me happy.
One of the things I'm dead excited about the fourth one is it's going to be partly set in Mesopotamia.
Oh, marvelous.
So I've got like I think one of the first sections is probably going to be set in Uruk, which I'm very like, and then I've been reading about like god nappings and various other things sort of there. And then I was briefly obsessed with, you know, the musical Six.
Yes.
So my eldest was obsessed with the soundtrack to that for a really long time.
We all love musical theatre.
It was incredible. She's a massive ham, so she bloody loves it. But like in particular, the Anne of Cleves song, Get Down.
Yeah.
I love that, and it basically just got me going on this Anne of Cleves kick. So I started like reading about it. I mean, Shauna will tell you, like listening to Anne of Cleves themed podcasts. I've got a feeling in the next one there's going to be there's a few Tudor cameos.
I think Anne of Cleves was done dirty by history, really.
Oh,
but she's always like the one who said, "Oh, she was too ugly." So, but actually, he looked after her like she was a sister the whole of her life.
Yeah.
You know, he did divorce her because he wasn't attracted to her, sure, but he didn't just throw her out. He actually made sure she was taken care of all of her life. And they were actually really good friends. So I think she's done dirty, isn't she?
Well, you read about like, and she managed to stay friends with like all the other queens, like all the wives were like best mates with her, and she was like Elizabeth I's godmother. You know what I mean? There's all this like,
yeah, you don't hear that, do you? It's just, oh, she was ugly and she was sent away. Yeah. But you know, that's how they treat. That's how that, you know, history is recorded by men. Yeah. Sadly.
That's it. But that's the other thing that's brilliant about writing a character like Sonny, because you can have the recorded history, and then you can have like, because obviously one of the things that I love, you know, is like historiography.
Yeah.
And you know, like understanding kind of the relationship between different recollections of events and different accounts of events.
Yeah.
And you can basically have like, you know, this is the formal account, but actually this is what it was like on the ground, and like, do you remember X, Y, Z?
Yeah. It's brilliant. And I have to say, wait. So the hummingbird idea came from this house near you.
Yep.
What? Because what I love about it, Hummingbird starts off with a demonstration outside of the school, basically, doesn't it? And you've already said the political discourse is quite important to you. Your books have a very moral centre with political discourse, I think, and also they're very queer positive. And I know when we shouldn't, and I get annoyed about the fact that every time I have to do a review, I have to say, oh, the representation was really good, because it should just be in every book.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, and kind of in a way that doesn't actually require flagging.
Doesn't matter. No.
I mean, I will say actually the other thing. So when Steph first asked me about writing for the Daughters of Darkness anthology, that was the other thing that was kind of on my mind, because it was when, I don't know if you remember, you know, in Birmingham there were all the school protests.
Yeah, I do.
And then they caught fire, and they actually. So I'm in Leicester, but a load of them kicked off in Nottingham.
Yeah.
And it was bloody up, because obviously I've got kids in primary school, you know what I mean? And thankfully, like, ours have been insulated from that kind of crap. But it was hard, because you were just seeing stuff on the news that I, to be honest, wouldn't have associated with the Midlands. You know, I'd associate it with kind of, sort of the American Deep South, or, you know, like very, very religious places. And all of a sudden it was like the most vicious homophobia that, I mean, to be honest, I've not seen since like mid-90s. You know what I mean?
It's disturbing. It's deeply disturbing, because you've got all these people saying, I don't want my children taught pronouns or different genders, but then they've got T-shirts on saying, oh, I'm the prettiest girl.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the prettiest wife. And you're like, okay, if he's heterosexual, it's okay. But you can't talk about... If
you don't want your kids being gendered, stop going to bloody Primark.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, it's crazy to me that people just can't let people be. Well,
that was the other thing, that it was the combination of that and seeing that sort of Halloween tableau outside the house and the proximity to the school.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think more generally, most of the time I write because I'm pissed off about something.
Yeah.
And I think rage is, it may not be the case for everybody. I know some people write much more kind of beautiful, heartfelt things, but I think for me, if I'm pissed off about something, chances are that's the impetus for me to sit down and write a book.
And I think that, you know, that comes to most women, isn't it? I think that, you know, regardless of the queer politics, just being a woman sometimes is bloody hard.
Well, to Coventry, all of that was, funny enough, that started because I was putting my youngest to bed one night. And again, I'm from Leicester, so I lived not far from Coventry.
Yeah.
And I grew up, you know, with like stories about Lady Godiva and
I love
the
that
statue and all the rest
by the way. That was great.
But again, the story you get told about Lady Godiva is that she, for reasons that no one knows, decided one day to just ride a horse naked through the streets. And then actually you read the medieval accounts, and it's that she was married to this absolute bastard that wanted to punish her. So I was putting my son to bed. I was thinking about that, and then I was like, well, wouldn't it be interesting to write about Lady Godiva?
And she is,
and then
she's very different in Coventry than is depicted in normal history. That's all I'm going to say. But she's very good.
But that idea, just like misogyny, and obviously now it manifests differently because you've got, it's in the book, but stuff like upskirting and date rape and kind of like revenge porn, vengeance porn.
Yeah.
But obviously, that sort of thread of misogyny, you can trace it all the way back to the 11th century and obviously before as well. And it's the same idea actually that women are being humiliated, or women deserve to be humiliated. And I think that sort of rage was what made me write that one.
Sadly, that's coming back, isn't it? Sadly, that kind of feeling of being of trying to put us back in our place for some reason. It seems to be a popular thing, doesn't it?
Well, one of the books I remember that I was listening to at the time was that Laura Bates one, Men Who Hate Women.
Yeah.
And it's just... And actually, I mean, some of that I think bled into Consequential as well. Not so much around the misogyny, but around basically just rich bastards screwing everything up.
Deeply upsetting book that was.
Yeah,
I was full of rage when I finished that.
Same. Honestly, I've had to sit. Well, funny enough, the book I've got coming out next year as well is also influenced by that. So it's called Tradwife, and it's about a mass murder in a purpose-built tradwife community.
Oh, is it slashery?
It's quite. Well, it's not supernatural, but it's nasty.
Oh, I love the slashery. I love it. Well, that sounds fabulous.
It's sort of fictional true crime reconstruction, but in a Handmaid's Tale sort of way, but with a lot more gore.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Oh, I can't wait for that. I have to say that although it's actually a really wonderful, deep vein of humour actually in all your books too. It's a real dark, fetid humour, but it's there. Do you know what I mean? And it's actually, there's a couple of times where I've just chuckled just because it's just made me really laugh. You know what I mean? And I love that kind of where you can have a laugh and then suddenly go, oh God. Do you know what I mean?
But that's all the Discworld stuff again. You know what I mean? You think about, like what you steeped in. I mean, I grew up obviously reading like Stephen King and Graham Masterson, and the sort of I suppose the more Graham Masterson, the kind of nastier end of, I can't remember the name of it now, but there was one, maybe it's called The Green Man, something like that. There's one Graham Masterson folk novel that's got a really unpleasant giant pig in it. But they're quite nasty, and Barker obviously, and all the sort of stuff that was knocking around in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, me too.
And the Discworld stuff, and that combination of actually like quite unpleasant body horror, and the world is a bit messed up, and actually it's because with Pratchett obviously there's humor, but there is also that moral compass and that sense of like the world's really messed up, you can have a laugh at it but also get angry. And you read interviews with Terry Pratchett, and before he died, and he talks a lot about anger and like him being fueled by anger, and you know what I mean, and that kind of rage and that sense of injustice at the world. And I think the combination of that and body horror actually works really well.
It works brilliantly. And with Pratchett, it's like it's another world, but it's so much like he's taken our world and take the mickey.
Yeah,
that's basically what he's done. Yeah, and that's what you've done with these two. You take our world and you subvert it and actually show it to the ridiculousness that it is.
Honestly, I swear to you, if I could do even like a 10th or 100th of what Terry Pratchett managed to do with the Discworld, with the Sonny books, I'd die happy. You know what I mean? Like that.
I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved Consequential. I loved all three. And I'm really annoyed I've got to wait a while now for the fourth one.
I've got to write it.
Write quicker, please.
Well, I've got it mapped out in my head now, and I've got some of the scenes. So because I've finished Tradwife. So Andy, my editor, who I think was in the chat at one point, I don't know he's editing.
Off, he said goodbye, I believe.
Well, he's editing it now, but that should be out with us next year. Free Nefarious Bat, but I'm trying to finish up. Shauna and I were talking about maybe putting together two novellas or two novelettes and kind of releasing them sort of simultaneously. So
he's still there. Hello, darling.
Oh, hello. Yeah, so basically how long Tradwife takes depends entirely on how much Andy kicks my ass over the next couple of months. But once that's finished and I've written the novelette that I'm working on, then the next one is the next Sonny book, which I'm very excited about.
it's just such a good series. I loved Hummingbird, but these two, they just complement it so well, both of those books. And they are a joy to, I mean, they really, I can't express to you enough, my darlings. They are a joy to read. If you like horror, if you like body horror, certainly, but you also like detective, not because she's kind of like a private investigator, basically.
That sort of.
But you like really dark humor with supernatural elements to it, where you know it's just so much fun. It's so much fun to read
and to write. To be honest, I absolutely love writing it.
I'll read them in one sitting. I can't put them down. I
can't
read
stop
both
writing
of them in one
when
sitting.
I was writing Consequential and Coventry, there's a book that I've been working on for about 2 years now called Lost Things and Forgotten Places, which is it's a sort of semi-sequel or prequel to Salvation Spring, which is kind of a weird western that I wrote a few years back. And it's at 90,000 words.
Wow.
And I need to finish it. I mean, it's going to end up being like 200,000. I'm halfway through it, if that, you know what I mean? But all the way through, I was like, I've got to sit down and write Lost Things. I've got to sit down and write Lost Things. And I couldn't stop writing Sunny. And actually, both, like the Coventry and Consequential, both of them were written when I should have been writing something else.
It would be brilliant. It'd be brilliant on a screen. It'd be brilliant as a TV show. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I just, because it's like a perfect mix. It's horror and a procedural. It's brilliant. I've never read anything like it. It's completely unique.
I would love that. But I think, I mean, part of that is, so the first series I wrote was, it was a trilogy about the sort of con artist books. It was basically about a bunch of female con artists in the 90s. And a lot of the fun of that, obviously, like, I like writing a twist. Like, I love a twist. But also, one of the biggest things that I found most interesting and most kind of fun about that is that you can switch around all the identities. Because obviously, it's like, you know, like an episode of Hustle or Leverage.
Yeah.
Every scene, they're playing a different character. And actually, with Sunny, it's the same kind of vibe as that. It's just that she could, not just any human character, she could be like anything. You know what I mean? And it's brilliant.
It's brilliant. And I'm really fond of Bunny too. I love the fact that she's this really powerful demon god and she loves amateur dramatics. I just love that humor of that she's Bunny, completely honestly, obsessed.
Bunny is like pure Carry On.
She is.
If I were going to cast Bunny, like a younger Joan Sims, honestly. Like,
she reminds me of like, she's like a demonic Mrs. Bouquet.
Oh, hell yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
She's one of those who'd be like, yes, 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 yes. You know, and I can even imagine her in my head. And I know you've described her, but she's different in my head.
That's fine though. That's great.
Because you know, I just imagine her as like this, you know, demonic Patricia Rutledge.
Yeah, like fake prim. I love that. But actually, I mean, sorry, just thinking about what you're saying. You know about your Egyptology degree. Like, one of the things that I'm quite excited about with Bunny is obviously it's only alluded to a little bit in the other two, but that she's obsessed with the sort of the Hellenic period, and that she's obsessed with Cleopatra and that, you know, that particular. Well, yeah, I mean, you would be, wouldn't you? But like, I'm hoping that in the next one or the one after, there'll be opportunities to kind of go back and forth with that. And again, it's all of it. It's such a rich vein of interesting historical moments to explore.
And you've got the whole of history to explore. Do you know? I mean, it's endless in a way, isn't it? You know what I mean? Cleopatra, another one who's been done dirty by men writing about her. You know, incredible. She spoke like 12 languages. She was an incredible scholar, very intelligent woman, and all she's reduced down to is the men she slept with.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually now you mention Cleopatra, and chances are the cultural the points of reference are going to be Liz Taylor or Amanda Barry. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't get me wrong. I love a Carry On film. Who doesn't? It's silly humour, isn't it? What I find most interesting about your writing, actually, is this intellectually quite stimulating. And I don't mean that it's complicated, right? It's accessible because it's really easy to read. And I mean that in the best possible way. It flows really easily. But if you want to look into other things, it's accessible to kind of go into other areas of thinking. And I really like that. There's levels to it. Well, that's the beauty of writing it as well, because it's kind of as you write it. I mean, actually, well, I say as a writer, as I plan it.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, I'm learning about all the different things that I'm kind of writing about, and obviously I'm a researcher in my day job as well, and I'm ex-academic. So there's areas that so part of the reason I wrote Salt Blood actually is because I was absolutely fascinated with like sentiment analysis.
Another fantastic read, by the way, my friends. If you like cryptids and weirdness, you'll love that.
And if you've got a strong opinion about AI.
If you've got a strong opinion about AI, and I could think of a few people I'd want to send to that island, to be fair.
Oh God, most of them, to be honest with you. but all of that started because I part of my PhD was in sort of not linguistic, an area of linguistics for critical discourse analysis. Yeah. And that's kind of all about basically the way that power informs language. Yeah. And a mate of mine did his PhD on basically sentiment analysis, so sort of like the more kind of corpus linguistics end of things, like processing language as data. Yeah. And it's all very much kind of precursors to the Gen AI stuff that we're seeing now. And obviously this is like 6 years ago or whatever, so it's technology's advanced since. But one of the things that terrified me about that then when we were talking about it was that we'd always talk about what a blunt instrument LLMs were and what a blunt instrument sentiment analysis was. And the thing is, it still is, because it's the same principle, but it's now being applied like it's an incredibly nuanced thing, and that scares the shit out of me.
I find, and it's like with AI, what annoys me about it is that AI would be really useful if it did my housework. I don't need it to write books for me. I want actual humans to write books for me. If I could have AI to come in and clean my house, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. If there was an automator, I am not anti-automation. Do you know what I mean? Like, bring on the Roomba. but you don't want a Roomba writing books. You don't want a Roomba doing complicated research or being a counsellor or a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, there are most places, like most things, most human functions can't be automated.
No, and it's evidence when if you go onto. I remember we did a thing at work where we did this training about using like ChatGPT and how it works and all that, and it was hysterical what it came out with. I mean, really nonsense, complete nonsense. And but I just think it's really sad. And I've used AI in the past to do like cartoons and things, but just as but I wouldn't publish it. No, do you know what I mean? There's no way as a tool. Yeah.
What scares the shit? I mean, obviously, as a writer, I get really angry about it being used in writing and especially in cover design as well. Because I think ChatGPT, it's so shit that it's hard to bang out a novel that's readable. Yeah. But actually, in cover design, you can sort of approximate not human quality, but something that on the surface of it doesn't necessarily look so shit that it wouldn't pass muster.
Yeah.
But actually, I mean, I'm seeing now at work, like sort of Gen AI tools being integrated into things that they've got no place. Like
me too.
Human research.
Yeah, me too.
That's like take those technologies out of human research because you're doing everybody a disservice.
We've got in our work. I can't really tell you where I work, but they started using AI tools in HR.
I've read about that, and it's
terrifying, really. I mean, that's the one area you don't want it, because you need to be speaking to a human who actually understands emotion and feelings.
Anything involving, like a human profile or a profile of a human, essentially, is keep AI the fuck away from it.
Exactly. But anyway, we've digressed, haven't we? I love it. What's your favourite novel of your own?
Ooh.
That's a hard one, isn't it? Especially like 12 or 13 of them.
Do you know, I really, really, the one that I'm most partial to, the one I think is probably the best bit of writing I've done is, it's the third in the crime trilogy. So the crime trilogy is, it's The Debt, The Push and The Remembrance. And the opening scene of The Remembrance is set in the Second World War. And it's in, so you're probably the same. Like, I grew up with like my grandparents' generation telling me about, like working in munitions factories. And basically, I think if you're a working class person from England and you're about our age, you've probably got that generation of people telling you stories about what it was like in the war. And it's set in a pub in the East End when there's a bomb about to go off. And it's, I'm still really proud of that particular passage of writing. Like, I'm really proud of it. It's funny though, because they're probably the books that people have read the least, like that trilogy. If you think about sales figures, I think that book's probably sold about 10 copies. But I I'm really
proud of it.
In terms of writing, I'm really proud of it. I mean, I'm
from the Midlands myself. Do you know? Obviously, you can tell, can't you? I actually, my family live about 10 minutes from Dan Barnes in the Midlands. So that's where I come from originally. I left when I was 16. I've lived away, lived all over the world, but I lived away for a long time. But I come from the West Midlands, the Black Country. Oh, you're frozen. She's frozen. She's back.
Oh, she's back. You're back.
Yeah, I come from the Black Country originally. So you can probably tell from the accent. Let's be honest, it's a bit softer because I've lived away for so long. And everybody's like, you can still hear it in your voice, especially when I say buzz, right? They can tell. And I'm like, but all over the world, there's people who talk like me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The thing I will say about the Leicester, I think I said this to you actually when we were at the indie horror thing. The thing I hate about the Leicester accent is it's not really an accent. It's like a potato of an accent. And it's like sort of generically Midlands, but not in a... So Brummie accents, you know immediately a Brummie accent. You know a West Country accent. You know a Black Country accent. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and actually Devon and Cornwall as well. You know a Southwest accent. But Leicester, it is just a fucking potato of an accent. Right?
Mine's quite soft now. Do you know, I don't talk broad like I used to unless I'm home. And when my husband was alive, we used to go up to the Midlands to visit my family. I used to have to translate for him because he couldn't understand what anybody was saying.
The thing is, I kidded myself for a long time because I'm the same. Like, I didn't live in Leicester for a lot of years and I've travelled a lot for work and that. And I was like, well, you kid yourself that you've not got much of an accent.
And you leave. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking to Shauna and suddenly she's like mocking the way that I say something, or you know what I mean? Or I tell her I'm like going town and I realise that I've completely forgotten like those entire parts of speech that just don't exist in the Leicester accent.
We probably should tie it up, darling. So we'll be chatting for an hour, Neely. But you are going to be at the next indie horror chapter in Canterbury. On the 29th of March. As I say, if you go to Facebook Indie Horror Chapter and join all the authors, there's some fantastic authors coming. So I mean, obviously Nat's going to be there as well, so it's fantastic anyway.
But everybody, like Lee Kenny's going to be there. You know what I mean? Like, well, obviously Shauna's going to be there. Like, there's so many awesome authors. I think like Graham Reynolds.
40. There's 40 at this one. I think there was 23. I think in Birmingham we're limited because of the space. Canterbury's a lot bigger, so there's 40 authors. It's going to be fantastic. So go along to the Indie Horror Chapter on Facebook and log in, and you'll be able to see what's going on. It's free entry, my friends. Free to get in, and you can buy fantastic. I bought 40 books in Birmingham, and I didn't even get round half of the authors.
There were some authors there that I didn't realise. In fact, funny enough, Dan Barnes, I didn't realise he was up in the mezzanine until the very, very end. And there was like a whole section that I'd missed. I've
got most of Dan's. And so there's some people I didn't need to go to because I already had all their books. Like Alan, well, Michaela was next to you, Alan Shivers. I'll be to read. Yeah, I'll be to read for him. Yeah.
Hang on. No, up the top there. We've got all three of it.
I'll be to read for Alan. So I've got all of these in hardback. So I've got all of these, so I didn't have to buy them. But everybody else, I couldn't just buy one. I had to buy like 4.
I was amazed at how many people were buying. There were people with like shopping carts, just like rammed full. It was incredible.
It just goes to show though, because I think that there's not many purely horror book conventions. I mean, there's a few more now. There's the Black Country Book Con as well, which goes on in October this month. I think it might be this weekend coming, or maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. But there's a few now, but there isn't many. And most of the horror conventions, they'll have authors, but it's also all sorts of other stuff. It's not just purely books.
Yeah, but a lot of horror stuff, it's like films, posters, merch. There's a lot more, and the books tend to be kind of a secondary concern.
Yeah, whereas this is purely books only. We don't intend to. I mean, we might do a couple of maybe merch at some point, do you know? But there would be specific. It's mainly going to be books, because that's what we all love, you know.
Seriously, come along, everybody. If you're watching this and you're nearby, or even if you're not, come along to Canterbury. It's going to be bloody awesome. And actually, from what Sharon was saying about the one down south or southwest in August, that also sounds amazing. Very excited about that.
It'll probably be an extra Taunton. I live in Devon, and I'm disabled, so I can't get to Canterbury. It's literally 4 train changes for me for here. It's just too far for me to get, and I don't drive. But sadly, I will be at the Southwest one. But I will be doing a lot of promotion for the one in March. So yeah, come along. It's a free event, my darlings. If you're and Canterbury's beautiful. Lots of wonderful secondhand shops, secondhand bookshops.
And cathedral. There's a lovely cathedral, cobbled streets. Oh, you get all your medieval wonderfulness.
It's gorgeous.
Yep.
I'm still hoping because I came up to Birmingham with Dave Watkins and Kev Harrison.
I
travelled.
I
travelled in his big truck thing.
I was going to say in his van.
I'm still hoping that he'll say, "Oh, Shaz, let's go to Canterbury and we'll go." Right? Because he's only up the road from me.
Get Kev as well. Sorry, I know Kev. If you're watching, or if anyone knows Kev, you'll know he lives in Portugal. But he should bloody come along because he will have a good time.
I know it'll be so much fun. And of course, Karina as well. Karina came with us. A big Karina up. So it was a really, really lovely journey. It was such a laugh. So yeah, it was really good. But thank you so much for your time tonight, my darling.
Oh, thank you for having me. And thank you so much. And yeah, thank you everybody for coming along. And it's been brilliant.
Yeah, Consequential is out now, and it's on paperback. Kindle is also on Kindle Unlimited. For those of you who have that, it's fantastic murder mystery, body horror, ancient gods and demons, a massive pig. What more do you need? Come on,
cubed human flesh. Come on, you know you want it.
Cubed human flesh. Yes. That, I think we should end there. I don't think we can say anything better.
Nothing more to offer. That's as good as it gets. Right.
Thank you, my darling, and you have a beautiful evening.
You too. Look, take care. Bye.